Hi, my name is Chuck Bennett. I am an assistant principal at Chestatee Academy here in Gainesville, Georgia. Now, either you have or you are about to receive one of these booklets that's bringing to you your students' scores from last year's Georgia Milestone test. This was the big test we took last April that replaced the CRCT. This is a new test, and this booklet is going to have a lot of information in it with a range of numbers you're not accustomed to seeing. This video is meant to help you understand that information. Now, you'll remember for years with the CRCT that students were divided based on their scores into three groups. If they scored an 800 or higher, they met expectations. 799 and lower, they did not meet expectations. But if the student scored 850 or higher, well, they exceeded expectations. If you've been around a while, you'll remember that the numbers used to be different. It used to be 300 to meet expectations and 350 to exceed expectations. Now, the reason for the change is there was one curriculum back here, and when they changed to the Georgia Performance Standards, they changed the test. So in order to reflect the new test, they simply changed the range of scores. This brings up a concept that you've got to understand in order to be able to read this booklet, and this is the concept of scaled scores. Scaled scores are representations of the actual percentage of questions correct. It's compiled by statisticians, and these are people who are smarter than you and me, so they have a good reason for doing this. Let's say Jimmy, in his 6th grade math test, scored 45 out of 60 questions correct, 75%. Well, the statisticians convert this into a scaled score, in this case of 850. 850 meant Jimmy just barely exceeded expectations in 6th grade math. Now, in science, he got the exact same score, 45 out of 60. But on this test, well, it translated into an 843 scaled score. The scaled score is a statistician's way of helping us to compare tests of different difficulty. Now, his friend Susie took the test. She got one question more, 46 out of 60. Her scaled score was 852, so it went up 2 points. But now look here in science, 46 out of 60. Again, one question more, but here it translates, well, that's a 7-point difference. It pushed her up to 850. So scaled scores, they can be kind of tricky to understand, and we'll come back to this in a moment. All right, one of the first big differences we're going to see with the Milestone test is that the students are divided into 4 categories. We have beginning learner, developing learner, proficient learner, and distinguished learner. So instead of the 3, we now have 4. You can tell from the words what they mean, but you can also look at the very first page of your booklet, and down at the bottom it's going to tell you what the different levels mean. And you'll also have a summary of your child's score. So, what scaled score is required for the different levels? To go from beginning to developing, you need a score of 475. To go from developing to proficient, 525. Now you notice it's simply a different range of numbers. They're still 50 points apart as there were 50 points apart here and here. So this is just a way for us to recognize this is a different test. Now, to go from proficient to distinguished, this is going to vary. It varies from subject and from year. So this is where it gets a little more complicated. Here's an example. This is English Language Arts, and I'm showing you 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Now you'll notice the 475 is the same for all 3 years. In fact, all subjects, all grade levels, in order to go from beginning to developing, it's going to be 475. In order to go from developing to proficient, 525. All subject areas, all years. But to move up to distinguished, it's going to vary. You can see in 6th grade Language Arts, 599, 7th grade, 592, 581 in 8th grade. If we look at math, again, we're 475, 525, that's consistent. But in order to move to distinguished learners, well, math is closer, 580, and, well, 579. Now, I'm also showing you up here at the top the score that would signify a perfect score. So if Jimmy comes home and he has a 700 in math, that means he got a perfect score. He got everything right. Probably needs a banana split. Seventh grade, perfect score is a 740. Perfect score in 8th grade is 755. Here we are in science, and you can review this video, so I'm going to move a little quickly here, so you can rewind and pause. And here's social studies. Another big difference we're going to see this year is a change in approach by the state of Georgia. They're wanting to raise expectations for all our students in the hopes that if we raise the bar, our students will work and rise to the challenge. So here I'm showing you in this graph, these are the CRCT results. The first bar, this is 2 years ago with the CRCT, and you can see the 3 different categories. In 6th grade math, well, 16% did not meet. But this year, 25% did not, or beginning learners, I should say. And now this is across the state of Georgia. Notice that the exceed expectations went from 28% and now distinguished, what's a different category, and it's only 9%. So by changing the names, adding the 4 groups, and raising the bar, this represents a change in attitude by the state of Georgia. We want to raise the bar to get our students to perform better. So your child may be accustomed to getting exceeding scores, and they're proficient, or maybe even developing. Maybe your child is accustomed to getting meeting scores and now is a beginning learner. This does not mean that your child did not work last year, the teachers didn't work, the schools didn't do their best. Everybody worked as well and as hard as they ever have. This simply reflects Georgia's change in attitude. So if we look 6th, 7th, and 8th, we see the same pattern continuing. In fact, if you go from 3rd to 8th in every subject area, you're going to see the same pattern. Here we have science. Again, I'm just going to move quickly. You can rewind and pause if you want to. Social studies, same patterns continuing. I saved ELA for last. This is another one of the changes. With the CRCT, we gave a reading test and an English language arts test. With the Milestone, we've combined them into a single ELA test. So this first bar represents reading, the second bar represents English language arts. So this is from the 2014 CRCT, 2 years ago. This is last year's Milestone. And so you can see the same pattern repeating. This is 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So, changes. We have new performance levels, 4 instead of 3. We've raised the bar, trying to increase the expectations on our students. We have 1 ELA test instead of the 2 that we'd had with CRCT. Now here's another big difference. In the English language arts test and the math test, we worked in written components, what we call constructed responses. Susie's taken the test, and she has 5 multiple choice questions in a row, and then question number 6 asks her to write a paragraph. And then she has some more multiple choice questions, and then another constructed response. So these written responses were sort of sprinkled in throughout the English language arts and the math test, not social studies and science, though. Another big difference is we had an entire test devoted simply to writing. So in Hall County, for example, day 1 of testing was the English language arts test with the writing sprinkled in. Day 2, nothing but writing. Day 3, math, multiple choice, and writing sprinkled in. Day 4 and 5, science and social studies, multiple choice only. So let's look at the writing scores. If you look on your English language arts page, the writing scores are in the top right-hand corner. And here's what they're going to tell you. The extended writing response ideas, there are 4 possible points, so your student's either going to have a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Extended writing response usage, well, there's 3 maximum points in that category. And then there was another writing question. It was narrative writing response. I had them writing, telling a story. And there are 4 possible points with the narrative response. Now, there's other information that is going to be provided in this booklet, and I really like this one here, the Lexile information. The Lexile information you're going to find at the very bottom of the English language arts page, and right down here it will say Lexile measure. Now, the Lexile information, that's telling you your child's reading level. And it divides it into two categories. Leisure reading, this is the child's current level. The child is going to be comfortable reading at this level, and it's good to have them reading. They enjoy it, the vocabulary, everything they can understand, and it's very easy for them. But then the next level, this is the motivating challenge level, or what we call the instructional level. The vocabulary is going to be harder than what your child's accustomed to. The sentences more complex. The concepts are going to be harder to grasp. And this is what's stretching them as a reader. So as teachers and you as parents, we want to provide them with a mix of reading. We want them to be challenged, but we also want them reading for fun as well. A word of caution, though. Don't get too far outside your child's Lexile level. If you do, they're going to get frustrated and they're not going to enjoy reading. Parents, think about yourself. If someone gives you a book and you don't understand a lot of the vocabulary, the sentences don't make sense to you, you're not going to read that book for very long. Well, students are the same way. So knowing their Lexile level is going to help you to gear the reading that you're providing for them to their level. In fact, the state of Georgia even provides some suggested titles, if you'll notice here in the bottom right-hand corner. So these are books you might buy for your children. Another set of information are these national percentiles. You'll see them underneath every score, and let me explain. So in the sample, the child has a score of 60. What this means is that compared to students nationwide, they scored better than 60% of all students. Our test, the Milestone, the old CRCT, they are geared to measuring how well your students mastered the material in the class, mastered the standards. But Georgia has a different set of standards than they do in Alabama or North Carolina or New York or Texas. So you can't use the CRCT to compare across the states. So what they did was they sprinkled in some questions from a nationally normed test. Now, these questions are not necessarily in our standards, but they are in a test that's given to students nationwide. And so your child's performance on those few questions is what allows them to come up with this comparison where they can compare students nationwide. The number of questions is not very big, and this is a new concept for us. So I'm not sure how much weight we should put on this national percentile right now. So that's the Milestone scores. Are these the results all you need to know if you want to understand how well your child is doing in school? And the answer is no. Make no mistake, these results are very important. Imagine going to the doctor and the doctor doesn't check your blood pressure. And you're going to wonder, how can the doctor understand my health if she did not check my blood pressure? But on the other hand, if the doctor only took your blood pressure, you're going to have the same question. How can the doctor understand my health without taking my blood pressure? This test is very important to understanding how well your child is doing in school. But even the state of Georgia is going to take this exact same data and they're going to look at it in a different way. They're going to look at it in terms of growth. Maybe Jimmy's score is here, but if Jimmy started down here, maybe he showed a lot of growth. And this is what we want to accomplish as teachers and as schools. So in the end, you need to apply your own common sense, look at these achievement scores, look at their grades, look at their growth, and throw in your own understanding of your child and your own experience of the world. And that's how you're best going to form your own idea of how your child is doing. Well, I hope this helps. If you have any questions about this, I'm sure that here at Chastity, the teachers, the principals will be glad to help you. If you're watching this from another school, I'm sure your teachers and principals will be glad to help you as well. Thank you.